Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Chicago. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with the Ben Sec, and we are ready to go in round 15. This is a win and in for top 8. Brian DeMars versus Tomoharu Saito. Oh, interesting matchup here, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, Tomoharu Saito looks like he's blue white, but actually Tomoharu Saito is actually playing a blue-white deck, splashing Kiora Crashing Wave. So he had it's a lot of the deck is very, very similar to a blue-white deck, but it has enough green so you can play 2 Kioras. Brian DeMars is actually playing Naya Hexproof, a deck that we haven't seen a lot of this weekend.
Not at all, but it is sort of ever-present. Like, there's always somebody, you know, who wants to run the Naya Hexproof deck or any type of Hexproof list. And let's see what Brian DeMars has for his first play. Well, it's not a Hexproof creature, but it's pretty resilient. Yeah. It's a Fleece main line.
It could be Hexproof in maybe a few turns.
Sure.
I think Naya Hexproof is probably the closest to a combo deck that really Standard currently has. It's really just build your own beast. Hopefully your opponent doesn't have some sort of like Detention Sphere or like Wrath style effect to deal with it, and see if it gets through there.
Now Saito, you know, he's playing a white-blue based control deck here. What are the type of answers that he can come up with to beat this deck?
So he does have 4 Supreme Verdict. I think that is his best kind of like strategy. If he is able to let the game go long enough, he actually can use Elspeth to like kill a big creature if it happens, even if it happens to be Hexproof. So I think those are the 2 like best answers. He does have like things like Last Breath if it's for cards like the Voice of Resurgence, but if it's an actual like Glaive Cover Scout or Witchstalker, something that isn't targetable, he really only has Supreme Verdict and Elspeth.
Okay, so Brian DeMars has nothing on his 3rd turn, but now we're in the 4th turn of the game here. Looks like he's got something lined up here. And he's going for Gore Clan Rampager. Saito has mana for Dissolve. It's going to resolve though.
Yeah, so it looks like Brian has the non-hexproof like side of his deck, able to actually like bubble Gore Clan Rampager. So even if it was enchanted the next turn, not very effective.
Right. So Saito finds Kiora. Now you mentioned he splashes for Kiora. What does Kiora give him that he can't get from regular blue-white?
I mean, it's a combination of things. It gives him a win condition. Like, the only way to win the game in Saito's deck is Planeswalkers. Now he has Elspeth, he has Kiora. Obviously Kiora, if it gets to Ultimate, gets to make some Krakens. And Jace Architect of Thought. So like Kiora 1 gives him another threat. The other thing is it allows him to ramp into some of his more expensive cards because of the Explore ability.
Sure. All right, here's Basara Tower Archer now for Brian DeMars. So now he's got an actual hexproof creature here. No attack from Brian. Once again, he can attack. That is one thing that people forget sometimes, that you do have the ability to. Of course, won't do any damage here though, so there's no point. Much better to leave it back. But Saito now has to figure out how he wants to approach. This is the kind of turn where, you know, if he fires off a Supreme Verdict, things can get ugly though. We do see that Brian DeMars has a couple of mana up.
Yeah, I think that the cards that he has in hand...
For Boros Charm, maybe?
Yeah, he has 1 Boros Charm, so it kind of gives him a little bit of defense against the Supreme Verdict. I think the rest are land, so he's a little flooded. But one thing on his side is that the Kiora bubble effect is targeted, so it can't really affect the Tower Archer.
Sure. All right, so use the same ability on the same creature and play a Jace Architect of Thought here. He's left up a Mutavault and a white mana source here. He's just going to plus Jace though, which is basically going to make that Tower Archer a tough sell. It's only going to be attacking for 1 damage if it's left unaltered here.
Yeah, and Saito has a Mutavault to block that, so it really can't attack unless he's got something else to like punch it through. Tower Archer is definitely one of the good additions from Jenny into Nyx for this deck. All
right, so DeMars is now attacking with his Tower Archer. Does this signal to Saito that he's got like another Gore Clan Rampager in his hand or something like that?
It does. I mean, like he obviously just played it then. It's also possible that there's a few other cards that he could have there. He could have Celestia Charm. it's I think they're trying to work out.
Where we are here.
Yeah, because like Saito's, I think, indicating that he might have wanted to like block with his Mutavault.
Right.
As it turns out, it looks like he's passed.
Yeah, he decided not to.
Yeah, that's right. So he was able to use the Tower Archer in combination with the Ghoul Clan to kill Kiora, which has the second ability of like freeing the Ghoul Clan Rampager for the next turn. Now what I think is he's trying to. I think Brian DeMars is almost trying to kind of goad Tomohiro Saito into like casting a verdict because he has the Boros Charm. He can protect it from the verdict, and so therefore, like it basically doesn't do anything at all.
That's right. Saito, though, is going to be very aware of Boros Charm and the fact that DeMars has craftily left up that mana every time, and he's going to be able to play around it, right? I mean, he can wait until he has a counterspell backup as well. The question is, can DeMars put enough pressure on Saito in the meantime to make him do it? All right. Well, here's a verdict to start things off.
So DeMars is going to
basically
counter it.
He basically counters it, and Saito, you know, he knows that's coming. He's like, okay, sure.
He does have mana and Azorius Charm in his hand, so that actually gives him protection against the Ghoul Clan Rampager specifically.
Okay.
And he casts that. Basically, whoa, DeMars basically thinks he's just like out of gas and has decided to just concede.
Wow.
I mean, I think one of the things that DeMars realizes is that his deck is kind of relying on, you know, getting ahead very, very quickly. Tomohiro Saito was on 20 life.
Sure.
Like, was so far behind. The Azorius Charm puts a card back onto his deck. He had only land in hand. So he just knew, like, I'm not going to win this game. Let's get to the second one.
Interesting. Let's take a look at our secondary match. We've got Adrian Sullivan and his pile of permanents versus Chapman Sim, who also has a pile of permanents. They're all faced a more reasonable direction, perhaps, but still, it's a whole bunch of lands.
Yes.
And Elspeth, though, for Adrian Sullivan, looks like putting him in the driver's seat to take down this first game.
So this is also a win and in. Both of these players are on X and 2. With pretty good breakers, like kind of like there are actually 18 people with X2 or better, and 3 of those actually have X1. And so I think that if one of these win, they'll actually like make the final 8. Adrian Sullivan actually been at the top of the standings all weekend. He started off 9-0. He's like lost 2 today, but like was able to kind of like right the ship a little bit to make sure that he actually gets in contention for top 8. Chapman Sim from Singapore, like a little far from home, but I think he's really trying to make a run at like Pro Player Cup points as well as the Singapore National Champion. Adrian shows an Aetherling with his mini fact or fiction split.
That was a really fast split, too.
Yeah, no. Fast split, fast take. I think really Adrian knows that he's in the driver's seat here. He's got like 2 planeswalkers.
It looks like we might see a counterfight here over this Elixir of Immortality. Yeah, that is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing dissolve that, and then it looks like syncopate your dissolve.
Right, and so...
Oh, he's actually going to syncopate the Elixir there.
Just in case he has another one. Can't shuffle the second one back in.
That can be a really huge deal, though, although it does look like Adrian is probably going to be able to kill Chapman with Elspeth. It's not guaranteed.
Yeah, the only thing that could possibly kind of save Chapman is if he's running Planar Cleansing, it will basically clear the entire board, including the Planeswalkers.
Yeah, we've also seen it pretty often that, you know, like Chapman can play a Wrath effect and then just Detention Sphere or whatever, Elspeth. Like, that does happen sometimes too, but he clearly doesn't have an answer currently.
It is interesting that he decided to, if he did have one of those, fighting for the Elixir is kind of an interesting play because it means that Chapman expects the game to go on a bit longer.
Yeah.
So I think he has more solutions in his hand. Otherwise, I'm not sure exactly why he decided to do a counter war over that card.
All right, so interestingly here, Adrian Sullivan attacks with all of his tokens. Chapman doesn't even bother with the Mutavault to block here. There's a planar cleansing for Sullivan, but he's not interested in that currently.
I think Chapman would like to just put that into his hand.
Yeah. And as you can see, Elspeth is looming on 7 loyalty here, so this game could very easily end next turn. Unless Chapman Sim comes up with something here.
Yep, and there's the Aetherling that we saw a little earlier. Yeah, no, looks like Adrian is like well in the driver's seat. Now even something like planar cleansing is not going to be good enough because the Aetherling can get blinked out. And so Chapman decides to tap the mat. And game 1 goes to Adrian.
All right, so Adrian Sullivan 1 game away from a top 8 here in Chicago. This is a pretty local GP for Adrian.
Yeah, like
he's from Madison.
That's right, and which is only a few hours drive here. It's basically within what I call the PTQ radius of Madison. Depending on how dedicated you are, your PTQ radius could be, you know, as far as like 100 miles. So it's like in some cases, I've definitely driven 11 hours for a PTQ once. It's not the best strategy because you don't feel the greatest at the end of it.
Right, unless of course you won.
That's true.
But then your friends have to listen to you say all your war stories while they ripe.
The worst part of those kind of things is like if you go as an entire car and then everyone does badly except for one person, and then the rest of the car is waiting, grumbling, basically cheering you to lose, so they can actually just leave and go home.
I think you might need some new friends. They're supposed to be cheering you on.
You know, when you get a bad seal deck, like the whole world feels like sad.
It is true.
This is actually looking to be a really good top 8. I mean, top of the standings going into the final round. Jared Betcher, which is
number 1.
Yeah, number 1. He's locked basically as long as he can get the draw from. I believe he's playing Oscar Jones. They're
another up and comer.
Yeah, no, it seems a lot of up and comers here. So now Saito and DeMars looking at their opening hands.
Yeah, Oscar was pretty excited because he's been playing the mono blue deck for quite a while, and as we talked about in our format overview, you know, everybody's kind of felt like it was time for it to come back.
Yeah, no.
Given the recent changes for standard with what's been winning, and he was pretty excited about it.
No, I mean Mono Blue's been doing excellent, so I think it was definitely a good choice for this weekend. Also looking good for top 8, but not quite locked, is Jacob Wilson, who's also like 13 and 1, but he's forced to play down, and so he can't get the draw to lock it up, but he is looking pretty good here. Also in contention, Steve Wise, Daniel Kwiatkowski,
yep.
Tyler Blum, Harry Corvesi, Jory White, Chapman Sim, Adrian Sullivan, Brian DeMars, Saito, Aben Kincaid, Yuta Takahashi still in the thick of it, Jaden Klopparens, who actually had a win in at, I believe, Grand Prix Cincinnati. So she did. Yeah, she has a really close calls, and she now is playing actually against Alex Bertuccini to have a chance at making top 8. And rounding out the 18 people with X and 2 or better are Steve Rubin and Ryan Scullen. So
take a look at the early turns, since the players in our main feature are taking quite a while here to get ready for their second game.
Yeah, it looks like there's some mulligans on Brian DeMars and Saito actually. Chapman Sim opening with the Elixir of Immortality.
It's pretty nice to get that thing on the battlefield early.
So Chapman's actually playing a Esper deck, and so you can see in his hand actually he has a Blood Baron of Escopa. Blood Baron's really quite good in these matchups. Like it avoids pretty much all the 1-for-1 removal in the format. Obviously does not escape Supreme Verdict, but still is really like, it can't be Defension Sphered, it can't be Banishing Lighted. It's just a really good threat. Okay, back to our main game, and Brian is playing a Temple of Plenty.
Yeah, he did mulligan to 6. It looks like he's got 5 cards in his hand.
Yeah, I think Saito also mulliganed, so I think they're still at parity.
Yeah, looks like he's back to 6 in his hand as well. So now let's see if we can get a quicker start from Brian DeMars here.
Yeah, he didn't have a. Doesn't look like he has a turn 2 play, except that he just drew a Celestia Charm, which is basically a pseudo 2-drop. Not unfortunately not as not as untargetable as the other hexproof creatures.
Yeah,
but
quite targetable in fact. Yeah, but
but
he's going to play it on turn 2, and interestingly, he plays it on his main phase here. He's going to want to make sure that that resolves.
it's a little tougher to kind of decide to enchant with an aura, the Night token, just because
you just can't do it.
yeah,
right?
it's really dangerous against a blue-white deck. They have Azorius Charm. They have like a lot of the like detention spheres.
Last breath. Like there's just a lot that can go horribly awry here, especially given that Saito has 2 mana up and didn't do anything for the turn. So.
Yeah, and he took a damage actually, like playing the Hallow Fountain untapped. So he's representing something. It's not something you want to be like doing like willy-nilly. I mean, he could have, I guess, next leveled him by like just playing it untapped and really representing Azorius Charm. But as it turns out, he does have an Azorius Charm in his hand. Brian DeMars almost definitely predicted that he has it. So
that does not tap. There you go, battle.
I think Saito's probably going to bite. I mean, he bothered to take 2 damage. If he wasn't going to do it, I don't think he would decide to.
Yeah.
So yes.
Plus, the Azorius Charm effectively exiles the token. Not a bad result.
So
for a 1-for-1.
Right. So Brian actually doesn't play anything, but he actually has a Boon Satyr in his hand. So it allows him to make it look like he didn't.
Little sideboard action here from Saito. He's got a Nyx Fleece Ram.
Right. That card's really good against like, some of the aggressive decks. I don't know how good it is versus this deck in particular, because they have ways of punching through the 0/5 just with Gorklan Rampager and like other enchantments. But still, you know, it definitely like eats up a Gorklan Rampager.
Yeah, and it just did right there. He's still going to take 3 damage off of this exchange, but he's not going to get to gain any life from his Nyx Fleece Ram, and he kind of forces Brian DeMars to basically use up a turn worth of mana to get rid of the Nyx Fleece Ram. So not a bad job. The Ram did its job.
Card's not so bad.
Oh, God. Detention Sphere is going to take down.
You were noticeably silent there. Like
I was processing. And yeah, Gorklan Rampager to follow up. Very kind of Brian DeMars to bring his Japanese Gorklan Rampagers.
This does not look good for Brian DeMars. Like
no.
his opponent's at 15. He hasn't drawn any of the hexproof creatures that he really needs to to kind of have a resilient threat. Saito's just 1-for-1ing him with his detention spheres, which really, like, part of the reason you played Naya Hexproof is so you don't get detention sphered, and this really hasn't worked out that way.
So DeMars with a 4/4 Trampler sitting there waiting to do work. Saito's at 15, so he has managed to chip his life total down a little bit here at least, but he's got a long way to go. DeMars has Madcap skills in his hand, I think, which isn't really going to be fantastic here, I wouldn't think.
So Saito decides to go for the Architect of Thought, land or Sphinx's Revelation, the eternal question, really.
That's right, and he's going to go for land this time. So Saito wants to hit those land drops. He's going to keep a card on top, though, with his Temple of Enlightenment and ship the turn back to DeMars, who finally has the green light to start doing some damage here. He can take out Jace, or he can just hit Saito, but either way, he's going to need to really get the ball moving.
I think he's kind of deciding whether the Madcap skills, he just needs to go like trying to do 7 damage, bringing Saito to 8 with the Madcap skills. he just drew a Celestia Charm, which is probably not the best draw right now. I think he'd rather have something like a Boros Charm right now. Just really not going kind of pushing through what he needs to push through. One of the interesting things that Brian DeMars has on the sideboard is Keening Apparition, which is, like, I'm sure came in because it's one of the things Saito's deck does is like lean on its enchantments. Oh no, it actually wasn't a Celestia Charm, it was actually a Voice of Resurgence, which is really much better.
Much better, right? Much more resilient.
Yeah, no, gives them a little bit of protection from the Wrath effects. In the sideboard, the cards that DeMars has kind of in his arsenal are like Fleeceman, another Fleeceman Lion, so that probably comes in. A Wear Tear, which is like obviously very good against the enchantments. Keening Apparition, so it just gives him a threat and a way of dealing with the enchantments. Glare of Heresy, also good against enchantments. So he's got a few things that really allow him to, fight some of the removal.
All right, so speaking of removal, Saito is going to fire off a Supreme Verdict, leaving Brian DeMars with just an elemental token at 1/1, but it's going to grow up 4 power here with Madcap skills and start pressuring Saito, but you got to figure Saito's going to find an answer to that token, and then Brian DeMars is going to be threatless.
Yes, yeah, no, I just don't. I think he has a Banishing Light, and there it is. Like, hits the elemental, which actually disappears into the ether.
That's right.
Glade Cover Scout. Maybe he might be wishing he kept his Madcat skills in his hand rather than go for the 3 there, but hindsight is 20/20.
That's right. Saito's on 11 life, so still at a pretty comfortable life total. Generally speaking, this Naya Hexproof deck doesn't have a way to come up with huge chunks of life outside of Gore Clan Rampager, though it can put up a very big threat very quickly, so it's a thing. Boros Charm still floating around.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways, but
11 life is really, really like far away, unfortunately.
It feels like a lot.
Yeah.
Nice flip here for Saito, too. Turns over Supreme Verdict, Nyx Fleece Ram, and Detention Sphere. There's really no combination of cards there that's fantastic for DeMars.
He was considering actually having like Ram or no. he really respects the Ram here, I guess.
I guess it's very good. I mean, look at what it's facing here. Now that Nyx Fleece Ram is going to do serious work here. DeMars has a lot of ways to go to get that Glade Cover Scout to be able to get past the Ram. I mean, again, you mentioned a second ago the Madcap skills would do it, but he doesn't have one.
Now the Ram is giving him some fleece in the form of life. Yeah, this game is fast getting out of control. Oh, there's a Faded Retribution. Another, like a card I think he boarded in from the sideboard to help deal with some of the untargetable things from Brian DeMars' deck.
Right, here's 4 mana from Saito. What is this for? Another Jace? Yep, there's Jace.
Why not?
And more cards just flowing. I mean, he has activated Jace 3 times now. Here's Elspeth, Banishing Light. He's just seen just straight gasoline off the top of his deck from his Jace activations here.
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of like playing an unfair fight now.
It really is.
Like, Tomohiro Saito's essentially been drawing 2 to 3 cards more per turn.
And they've all been spells. Like, he hasn't even, had a bad flip where it's like, oh, I'll take, random lands or whatever.
I think we're getting to the stage where even if Brian DeMars, we could actually stack his deck. it would still be really, really tough for him to win.
Yeah, 1 card per turn is just too slow. Here's Keening Apparition. Okay.
That's probably one of his better answers. Now, Saito's checking what it could actually free.
Unfortunately for DeMars, neither of those can actually get past the Nyx Fleece Ram on their own.
Yeah, obviously the most juicy target is likely to be the one.
The Rampager there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but
it's
still
much better than Boon Satyr. once it's on the battlefield. So
Yep.
Saito's kind of playing with his food here a little. Just, you know, he's got all the time in the world. He's just going to go ahead and Supreme Verdict away. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He can't.
It just doesn't do anything, right?
Right. Because if he frees the, if he
so brutal.
if he frees it, he actually like it dies as well. So he might as well not actually try and kill the detention sphere.
Yeah, this is awkward as well from DeMars. He found a Fleece main line, which is really nice here. He doesn't actually have the 5th mana to monstrous it, and it looks like it's not going to resolve potentially anyway. 1, 2, oh, he can pay the 4 mana.
Oh, I wonder. Oh, maybe he actually has a land in his hand, and so he wanted to see if it resolves.
I like Prud'homme.
No.
What was that about?
He actually like syncopated for 4, and he paid.
Yeah, so why?
I think what he wants to do is tap him out so he actually can kill it. Because like if DeMars actually had a land in hand, he would actually be able to play the land and then make it like monstrous.
Gotcha. Sure.
So he says, okay, I'm going to tap you out. Then I'm going to use like a
1-for-1 removal of some
removal
sort.
spell.
Okay. Makes sense.
He can afford to like throw away a couple cards here and there because he's just been up so many of them. Like he's got another detention sphere. I think he can also use that verdict to deal with it. He can really choose his poison. Okay. This board is why we see that you can't use detention sphere to detention sphere other detention spheres.
Exactly.
Because it would cause quite a loop.
Is this another Fleece main line?
Oh,
it
look
is.
at this. It's another Fleece main line.
And he's played a land untapped as well, so.
But Saito is going to actually like syncopate for 5, which he can pay, which really kind of indicates that he's likely to have like something 1-for-1. In fact, we know that he has the verdict, so he's 2-for-1ing himself, but dealing with the Fleece main line.
Yeah, and he's pretty happy to do that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, you know, eventually Jace will tick himself up to be able to like draw some more cards. We've got another Banishing Light here.
So he's going to do the old Jace replace here.
Why not?
Tick up Jace, then tick down the second Jace. And he sees Nyx Fleece Ram and a couple of lands. And DeMars offers the gift of the goat here. Oh, he'll take it.
Yeah. You won't pull the wool over his eyes for this one. I haven't really, like, I'm not trying that hard.
This is easy for you?
Yes.
So there's Supreme Verdict to wipe away the Fleece main lion, and then the Nyx Fleece Ram follows it up. And again, it just feels like Brian DeMars, even though those last few plays were potentially decent, he just hasn't been able to get over the hump here and actually start putting pressure on Saito. Now Saito's fully stabilized again with the Planeswalker in hand. He's also got the Nyx Fleece Ram to pad his life total and put out a great blocker.
So he's got a... Oh.
Not too bad. So Wear and Tear is going to take down one of the detention spheres.
With the
going to get him the line back, and he's going to monstrous it.
So actually now he has the hexproof.
He finally got there, and it's also not wrathable. So this Fleece main line can go the distance. The problem is the Ram can block it right now. He needs to find something to suit it up and make it a little scarier than an already big lion. So Saito figures out to block here, and a reasonable follow-up.
Yeah.
All right, Brian DeMars says, we're not done here yet.
I think what Brian DeMars really needs right now is something like a Madcap Skills or Unflinching Courage.
That just puts the big pressure on right now.
He actually needs to kill the Jace. The Jace is what's keeping like Saito in this game. Like Saito's hand isn't that good. He's actually down to like 1 or 2 cards right now, and now that he cannot get rid of the lion, the way to win is essentially like get ahead of his card advantage and then like put it away. Right now the Nyx Fleece Ram is like getting him life, providing blockers. giving him a little bit more time for his Jace to draw something like Sphinx's Revelation, which gives him more and more turns.
Right. That is kind of the big question mark here. Saito has 4 Sphinx's Revelation in the main deck. This is game 2. Would assume that some amount of them are still in there. We haven't seen one yet from him this game, though, and once he peels one,
yeah,
that'll be the hammer blow. But
so
looks like it's Mutavault, or he can take a Wrath and a land.
He decides to take the Wrath on land, even though the Wrath is not effective against the line as it stands.
Oh, Kiora, the Crashing Wave. That's interesting. Now it's giving Brian DeMars something else to worry about here, as he's going to have to show some respect to Kiora if he can find a way to get in.
Yes.
And it's Madcap skills off the top.
Really, really important draw.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Right. So now he's got to make the choice whether he thinks that to go for a Planeswalker or to attack Saito. But he knows that if he attacks the Planeswalkers, he's going to give himself the best long-term strategy to deal with it.
Yeah, once you start letting the Planeswalker activations add up, you can feel yourself falling behind. All right. And there's the Banishing Light to take out Madcap skills, and that is going to reduce the Fleecemane line to, once again, quite blockable. What did he draw this time? Another Fleecemane line.
Oh, that's actually really, really good there.
Yeah, it is, and he's going to Monstrous it, and it resolves.
Yeah,
did he not? Yeah. Did he not attack at all there?
So the.
Oh, there's a Mutavault.
There is a Mutavault, so he's kind of playing around that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he plus Jace, so the best he could do is get blocked and try to get in for 1 with his voice, but of course that thing just gets blocked by Mutavault. Hey, there's all the Sphinx's Revelations. A quick library check here too. He's got 20-something cards left. So,
I mean, it's basically 2 cards or 1 card. There's almost no reason to not take the 2-card pile here.
Yeah, it's an Azorius Charm in there too.
Yeah,
is that right?
That's right.
Saito has to use both hands to count up all of his lands. He is going to be able to Sphinx's Revelation for $1 billion.
Yeah. Now he's actually kind of he's probably a little bit worried about how many cards he has left in his deck. He's lost some of his Planeswalkers, so he doesn't have as many threats in his deck.
Right.
So it's possible that he doesn't want to deck himself.
Did you play a land on tap? No.
He can Sphinx's Revelation for 11 here.
There's so many cards.
You got to figure he can find a way to win after that.
He is dealing with 2 cards he cannot deal with anymore.
No, those are sticking.
Yeah.
The problem is they're not evasive. Like 1 Elspeth, the tokens can just keep those things at bay, and you'll eventually fall behind.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not as effective at this late stage of the game. Saito's basically just trying to navigate not killing himself with the Revelation. He's not particularly worried about actually the lines doing him in.
Right. Saito's at 17. Nick's Fleece Ram has added to that a little bit here and there.
But to be fair, DeMars has probably drawn about as well as he could have expected, in the last few turns.
For sure.
He happened to be able to get to lines at
only for 10?
I'm not even sure what he's keeping the extra mana for, but
he might just not want the 10th card.
Yeah, but that's very possible.
Or the 11th card. So back up to 27 for Saito. Finds a land and plays the other Nick's Fleece Ram here. There's also one in the graveyard for him. Does Saito run Elixir of Immortality or not?
No, he doesn't actually.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even have it in the sideboard. Or
he's got enough win conditions in this deck. That
He leans on his Planeswalkers for the win conditions. So obviously Elspeth, an obvious one. He's got 3 of those. Kiora, if kept unchecked, also can do that. Jace also can. I mean, you
can win.
Yeah,
it's a little trickier.
Right. You just get him up to 8 loyalty, and then you can actually steal a card from their deck to kill him with.
Right.
Or get an Elspeth from your deck. But other than that, no other removal no other ways to win other than Mutavault.
Okay, Boros Charm looks like it's going to do the old double strike duty here to take out an Ix-Fleece Ram. Again, DeMars' draws have been pretty decent.
Yeah, no, he's drawn nothing but spells for the last few turns, but it's probably not going to do anything like relevant.
All right, BDM, why don't you give us some updates from the top tables?
Yeah, so our top eight's taken shape pretty quickly. It's going to look pretty good. Jared Betcher and Oscar Jones have drawn.
Okay.
So both Jared and Oscar are in the top 8. Jacob Wilson was locked for top 8 already, but he was playing against Tyler Blum, and he was playing for position. He got paired down. He couldn't draw, so he lost to Tyler. And so Tyler's in the top 8. Tyler's someone who was on the Canadian national team in 2005 and just got back onto the Pro Tour this year and journeying to next. So pretty exciting for him. Steve Wise defeated Harry Corvese. So Harry's out, and Steve Wise got the spot. Daniel Kwiatkowski, who we saw earlier in the feature match, lost to Jory White's Jund Monsters.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you here, BDM, but I believe we have scoop phase here, and I think Saito might be joining the players that you're telling us about now in the top 8 here.
Yeah. There's going to be a little bit of a crowd at X and 2, it looks like.
And the tiebreakers are going to be weird, because it's a 6-round tournament. So tiebreakers from day 1, when you merge the tournaments,
do they reset?
They reset.
Oh, interesting.
So it's going to be, it's pretty wide open. Just wrapping up, Jadine Chiaparena beat Alex Bertoncini.
Oh.
So Jadine has got the point total necessary for top 8, and Steve Rubin beat Ryan Scullin. And then and Yuta Takahashi also won, so he's also on 39 points. It's going to be a real kind of dramatic announcement for the top 8.
So there's going to be essentially 10 players going to be like vying for the 8 spots.
Yeah, only Betcher and Oscar Jones are free and clear.
Wow. All right, thanks, BDM. Great stuff. Looking at our other match here, Adrian Sullivan. Every time we come to watch Adrian Sullivan, it's just a pile of permanents on both sides. But I do see some pretty key ones here. There's an Aetherling up there.
Yeah, I think the Aetherling.
Chapman.
Yeah, it's Aetherling on Chapman's side. Adrian's won game 1. Adrian has his own Aetherling in his hand.
There's that trading post out of the board as well. We saw him absolutely demolish a burn player with that. And there's a Debtor's Pulpit on the table, which is going to keep that Aetherling at bay. It's one of the best possible answers to Aetherling.
Yeah, no, it's won the only once, and it really shows kind of the versatility of Adrian's sideboard and deck. Just he can deal with even like the most kind of powerful of threats.
And here's Cyclonic Rift on end step. Is this just to keep Jace from going ultimate, basically?
Yeah, no, it certainly looks like that, because that's the only thing that's going to bounce. And it actually forces Chapman to discard, I think, because he already has 7 cards in his hand. Even though there's going to be some people missing out on X and 2, they're all qualifying for Pro Tour Khans of Tarkir.
Of course, right. We've
so
easily made that threshold here. Over 2,000 players in this tournament.
So congratulations to everyone who's like X and 2 or better. I mean, obviously it's nicer to be able to make top 8, but the qualification isn't too shabby.
So what is Adrian coming up with here? Activating Jace.
The opportunity.
That's opportunity, old school.
Yes. One of the things that people don't realize with the opportunity is that sometimes in the control mirrors, you can kill them with it. It's a target player draws 4 cards. It's not like Sphinx's Revelation. So
one card I saw in Adrian Sullivan's hand, by the way, is Jace Memory Adept, which once on the table can be a complete wrecking ball in these control mirrors. So if he can manage to resolve himself a Jace, a big Jace, that can end the game pretty quickly. It's a must deal with permanent for Chapman Sim. But it looks like Adrian is being patient here and not rushing anything.
One of the cool things about the trading post is it really like allows him to have a secondary like card advantage engine. Like he has another artifact in the form of Ratchet Bomb. He could technically sack his Dark Steel Ingot, and then he can like make a goat and then kind of like restart the cycle again. So
That's right.
It's a little slow, but it does get him some cards overall.
Yeah, it'll grind. And this is Detention Sphere. Yeah, it might be picking a bit of a counter war here.
Yeah.
Both players have been kind of snugly sitting on their hands, and you got to figure they got quite a few counters floating around. Here's the first one, Dissolve.
Yeah, the target for the Detention Sphere is almost definitely going to be the Debtor's Pulpit.
The pulpit, right? Yeah.
It's the thing that's stopping Chapman from advancing his game.
And in 2 turns. I mean, if he gets that pulpit off the table, things get out of hand pretty quickly with that Aetherling. All right, negate that. So we have Dissolve, Dissolve, Negate on the stack. Of course, there's a Detention Sphere at the bottom of it and another Negate.
Your negate on my negate resolve.
So a fight indeed.
He's let his first Negate resolve, and basically wants to negate the Dissolve.
Yep, he's actually going to dispel the Dissolve this time.
Okay.
And his Dissolve is the last thing to go there. It does counter
Oh, he made a goat.
the sphere. He made a goat.
There's a lot of livestock in this top 8. There's Nick's Fleece Rams and goats.
Lions? I don't know if lions count
They're
as
not really livestock.
Yeah.
But it's a fleece main line, so it produces some wool. So I guess kind of.
You'll buy that. Opportunity gets its own pile. 3 card draw spells, all different flavors there for Adrian Sullivan.
Yeah, Chapman basically doesn't want to see that counter spell. He has another Detention Sphere in his hand, so he wants to try and see if he can get it through. I think his plan is to try and go again for the pulpit, but Adrian's having none of that. Decides to take the gainsay. Knows that he needs to protect. Oh wow! And now this is the hammer. This is basically the way that Adrian's going to win the game.
Yeah, so this is huge here. Yeah, and here's the quick count from Chapman.
It looks
Sim.
like mid-20s there.
And it looks like Adrian's going to be patient here, though, and plus his Jace. That's going to mill 1 card. Any reason why he wouldn't just go for it?
I am unsure right now. I think he may think the game is still kind of a little bit in the balance, so he just needs to like be much more sure of his board before he that Jace is going to take like 3 turns of tenning his opponent before, and so he may feel like he needs to actually like draw some cards.
All right,
first.
so here's another counter fight, by the way. Detention Sphere goes on the stack, Gainsay, Dissolve, Gainsay, Dissolve. So both players were sitting on full grips of counters, and they're choosing their second fight here. This is interesting, though, because Chapman did this actually after combat, though, it seems.
So Adrian's like quickening to try and see if he can draw another counter spell.
He's trying to peel a counter spell here. That goes in the yard. Now, if this Detention Sphere does resolve, are we going to see it hit Jace now, or are we going to see it hit the pulpit still?
I'm pretty sure it has to hit Jace here. I mean, Jace, he just can't afford to let Jace like start tenning him.
Like 1 activation of it can be a huge deal. All right, that's in there.
No, he's going for the pulpit.
He's going for the pulpit because the problem is that he needs 2 turns to kill Adrian with his Aetherling, and this turn he's not going to get it done either.
Right. I think his strategy may be that he's going to like attack Jace with the Aetherling.
Okay, so he's just like, look, I can deal with Jace anyway, as long as my Aetherling's around. I mean, wow, there's planar cleansing.
So he
wait, what is that? Oh,
because he quickened.
Because he quickened.
So he can.
But Chapman has mana up here. So this would take out the detention sphere, which is of course quite important there, but it would also take out Jace and the post, but it looks like it's going to get syncopated anyway, so he just paid for it. All right. Down go a lot of permanents.
Oh, he basically syncopated, then still had his Aetherling, like, he didn't have blue to blink it out.
Because of the syncopate?
Right. But I'm not sure why he syncopated in the first place.
I don't know either then. Yeah, because he had blue mana up for sure when the planar cleansing went on the stack.
Yeah, no, I'm not exactly sure. We might try and find out to see what happened in the.
I mean, those boards get pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like we pop in and there's 13 lands.